I'm trying not to see myself in the viewfinder, but I look cute and I want to kind of look at myself. But before we do that, let's have a peek behind my curtain so you can see Fern, and most importantly, so I can have my cup of coffee. Hi, welcome back to NoMeJodas. My name is Tania Andrea Childess, and happy Valentine's Day. I hope that you're all having a wonderful Valentine's Day. Even those who are choosing not to participate in it, I hope that you're making this a wonderful day for yourself. And to all the happy couples, I hope you enjoy the festivities, the flowers, the chocolates, the night out, and the end of the night activities. Just remember to wrap it up. Wrap it up. I say this, but funny enough, February produces far less babies than Christmas time does, if you can believe that. But in the last 15 years or so, birth rates have been on the decline in the US and worldwide.
And it's all Millennials' fault.
A lot of adults are foregoing having babies for fur babies, to the Pope's dismay. But I don't think pet owners are sorry, padre. So on that topic, I thought that this Valentine's Day we could discuss why all of us damn millennials are just not having babies. The audacity, right? So,
No, is that what you're wearing? You can't wear that. It's not Valentine's Day enough.
What do you mean?
Go change.
You serious?
Absolutely.
Sorry guys, apparently I am told I need an outfit change, so give me 1 second. Better?
Yes.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
Bye.
What would you even do without me?
Now that we have the outfit change, let's actually begin. According to PewResearch.org, from an article titled, "Growing Share of Childless Adults in U.S. Don't Expect to Ever Have Children," birth rates in the United States dropped. This continued the downward trend in the U.S. fertility rates, which were already at a record low before the pandemic. Since the 2008 economic crash, birth rates have been steadily declining. Some 44% of non-parents ages 18 to 49 say it's not too or not at all likely that they will have children, an increase of 7% from those same people who were given this survey back in 2018. There are a few motivations for this. According to this article, a majority of non-parents younger than 50 who say it's unlikely they will have children someday say they just don't want to have kids. Besides not wanting to have them, medical reasons were a major motivation as to why people are remaining childless, especially among women. The other reasons were financial, lack of partner, concern for the state of the world, and more. So all these seem like reasonable and obvious reasons as to why people are choosing to remain childless. So then why are people so up in arms? Well, let's talk about that. So the main concern thrown about is this idea of population implosion, where the decline in birth rate is going to lead to a time period where we have a high population of elderly adults, a population that's no longer producing for the economy, while there will also be a decrease in a new generation producing for the economy and taking care of this elderly generation. So capitalism. We are worried about capitalism. Now, that's not to say I don't see the importance of our economy, but if we were so worried about it, wouldn't our society be doing all it can to make sure that its population was capable of starting a family? As we saw in the Pew Research study, people noted financial reasons being the motivator for not having children, which is more than understandable. Babies are expensive. Raising a whole human is expensive. Even just having a baby is expensive when you think of the medical costs if your insurance doesn't cover it. Let Brenda explain.
The last thing I'll share is that when I was pregnant, I had health insurance and I was quoted $6,000 to $120,000 to have my baby.
I highly recommend her. You should follow her at God is Gray. Throw on top of that the fact that most young people are drowning in student loan debt, some even credit card debt and medical debt, just a whole lot of debt. It's no wonder that a lot of people are figuring they can't afford to have children even if they want to. So again, if our society, if our government is not going to make having a family a viable and feasible option for the average American, then it has no right to blame us millennials for the incoming crisis. Help us if you're gonna bitch about it. POTUS forgives student loan debt. POTUS forgives student loan debt. Do it. Do it. But like the research shows, what if you're a part of that majority percentage of people who just don't want to have children? Let's talk about the taboo. So we all know by now that historically, women didn't really have options when it came to childbearing. But in today's world, with access to contraception and the fact that women have more options when it comes to career paths, a lot of women are choosing to postpone or forgo childbearing altogether. Because contrary to popular belief, it is not in our DNA to want to have babies. Just because we are capable of having them does not mean that all women want to have them. So please jot that down because a lot of y'all have it twisted. Many women, including some in my own life, never pictured motherhood for themselves. And a lot of the times when women express that, they are told a number of things that range from how selfish they're being, that they're going to regret it one day, or that they might just change their minds in the future. But what is it with this idea of not wanting to have kids, or for women more specifically, not wanting to be mothers that has people so fired up? Well, it could be a number of things. Media for the longest time depicted women in roles that served to create the idea of the nuclear family, with women serving as the nurturing caretakers. If you've grown up under religious indoctrination, then you've already been exposed to the black and white narratives for the roles men and women serve. Societally, having children means the survival of our species, and culturally, having a family is almost like a way of transcending yourself and this life. But besides all this, a lot of women and men have come to the understanding that the idea of family that we've all been exposed to just might not suit them. I personally think that it takes a lot of understanding in oneself to come to that recognition. But because for the longest time we were taught that life only really looks one way, a lot of people just kind of fell into the roles because that's what was expected. But life nowadays looks different. Families can and do look different for many individuals in today's society, and that's okay. Now that we've talked about all that, I think we should get into what I feel about this topic. So let's get into that. So let's get this out of the way first. Living childless is a valid existence. There are many people out there that for whatever reason choose not to have children, and they are living beautiful and vibrant lives. This idea that people really feel the need to come to you and kind of tell you that your life is just not as fulfilling because you don't have someone to take care of is honestly incredibly selfish of someone to kind of throw and project onto someone else. So yeah, let me just kind of like set that straight right now. Live your beautiful childless life if that's what you want. I think we really have to move on as a society of this idea of what life once looked like. There are so many more options in today's society, and there is nothing wrong with people grabbing hold of those other options. I think that everybody needs to mind their own business. Now let's get to me. One of the first things that I always get asked is, do I have a boyfriend? And if the answer is yes, it's always, when are you gonna have kids? When are you gonna get married? When is all that gonna get started? So for the majority of my life, I have been constantly told that my body is made for baby making. A big portion of high school was me being made very aware of my baby bearing frame, which is very awkward and very strange when I look back, because that was a time period where I wasn't even fully content and whole in myself. So to have other people essentially decide for me that is the expectation of me really kind of blew my mind and kind of made me kind of curl up further into myself, especially because I just was not comfortable with my body for the longest time. For the longest time, my body never felt like it was mine. And the idea of the world suddenly wanting to make it for someone else really kind of frustrated me for the longest. But in my 20s, that all started to take a shift. That was also a time that I was getting into real relationships that I thought were going to last a lifetime. And all of my partners and all my guy friends, even when I ask about whether or not they want children, the answer is always a resounding yes, 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 even if it was not right then and there. And what's funny about that is that when I ask my girlfriends those same questions, I am more likely to get a no from them than I am from my male friends. But me knowing that all my partners had that expectation in our relationship, I became more comfortable with the idea of having children. Before that, I was honestly too busy to really consider like being a mom and all that. With school, I was more distracted with trying to get good grades and trying to make my parents proud of me. So the idea of becoming a mother was mostly on the back burner. But for most of my life, I've been told that I'm very nurturing. Though some people might find it very difficult to interact with children, I love interacting with children. Children are very, very easy. Because they're so new to life, it's very easy to be very patient with them. So I've always been very good with kids. I, even to now, do caretaking as a job. Having been an awkward kid that was very lost in themselves makes it easier for me to relate to other kids who seem to be going through the same thing. So it's very easy to empathize with children, but it's adults. Adults I have no patience for. But when it comes to kids, I have a lot of patience. And in having that patience, having that nurturing and caring energy, I've been told that I would probably make a great mother someday. And honestly, I think the same way. I think that I could potentially be a great mother. But I won't lie, I am very hesitant to have children. Like the Pew research suggested, I am very concerned about the state of the world. I don't know what is going to be left for the next generation, and I am very hesitant to bring someone into that world knowing that everything is very uncertain. And yes, I know that all of life is very uncertain, but in today's society, we are able to measure our impact on the climate and the world, and I'm seeing that we aren't necessarily headed to a great place, and that is most concerning to me. Everyone's worried about Mars when who gives about Mars? Earth here isn't doing well, and we're not doing anything to change it. But my hesitation doesn't just stem from the state of the world. I have medical concerns for why I may not want or can have children. I have PCOS, polycystic ovarian syndrome, where I have cysts growing on my ovaries, and this could lead in the future to infertility. And that's always a very big cause for concern when I get into a relationship. That was something that all my partners wanted, and all my partners made it a point to say that they all wanted their own children. My first real relationship in my 20s was when I found out I had PCOS. And not for nothing, I worried more for him than I did myself, which looking back, I'm just like, what the fuck is wrong with you, girl? So that is something that I always bring up whenever I am starting something new with someone, whenever it seems like it might be leading somewhere. That is something that I mentioned right from the beginning, that there might be a potential that I might be infertile in the future, because especially right now, I don't want to have kids. I don't think I want to have kids in my 20s. I think I want to save that for my 30s, and I might potentially not be able to have them. And for me, I am prepared worst case scenario. Now that I've kind of caused you all this concern, my doctors aren't very much worried about that for me. They don't really think that I will have those troubles even with the cyst on my ovaries, but we always consider worst case scenarios. I'm most thankful that I don't have a family that puts those pressures on me. Both my parents have never put the pressures of having a family or getting married on any of us, and they have 3 daughters. I have never once heard them say that we must get married and marry well. If anything, we have always been told that we need our education to be able to take care of ourselves outside of another person. According to my dad, he is perfectly fine with his family line dying with him. And my mom, as much as she might want them, she has never put the pressures of having grandchildren on us. I'm incredibly thankful for that because I know a lot of people who are definitely getting those pressures from family. For some families, the idea of having grandchildren and continuing the line is very paramount among them. And though I might understand that to an extent, projecting one's expectations onto another person is honestly incredibly selfish because it adds such a level of pressure onto a person when, and let me just make a very frank statement.
And here we go.
No one ever says that existence just gets hard sometimes. And it will look very different from individual to individual. This is something that I am so adamant about that schools need to talk about, that the education system needs to talk about with children. And it's not to scare kids into existential dread, but we need to be more realistic in how we talk to our children about subjects. I have a lot of feelings on the bannings of books about the Holocaust and not teaching our children about the specifics of race and how race played, all those things. But especially, we do not have conversations with children about the fact that first and foremost, you have to be content in yourself before you try to find contentment in anything else. Because if we live in a society that's not teaching kids the foundations of what it is to exist and to be alive, what are we really doing? We are sending them off just to become adults that have to figure it out, and I feel like that's so incredibly selfish. But hey, maybe that's just me. My body finally feels like it's mine, and I don't really want to share space with it right now. And call me selfish for that, which absolutely, there is nothing wrong with being selfish with one's own life sometimes. So I'm gonna do that. I will be foregoing having children, at least in my 20s. I want my 20s to be for me. I moved recently, and I am just trying to figure it out right now. What I want most is to build community out here. All my friends and family are back home, so I want to build something out here that can sustain me. I want to make friends, and maybe potentially I'll meet someone out here, and the conversation of children can be a conversation that we have then. But for now, the answer is no. And I don't know if that will ever change. And that does not bring down my value as an individual. And anyone who thinks otherwise, NoMeJodas. Hey guys, I'm glad you made it to the end of this video. If there's anything that resonated with you, or if you have any disagreements, please comment down below. Again, these are my social media sites. Please feel free to follow me there. And again, I hope you join me next time.